say thank you to Dr. Chan for inviting me to this. And Dr. Jan Adams also was the one who said you should probably do this with a Gaffney lecture series so that we can have time with students. So I thank you, and then all the psych department faculty who also made it here. I appreciate it. So I firmly believe that anytime when you give a talk, when you talk to people, there needs to be some kind of rationale. Why? Right? We do what we do. I mean, we are in a human behavior science business. So more so than usual, I want to make sure that we have the clear rationales. So the rationales for this workshop. So don't think about this as a lecture. This is really workshop. My trying to help you all out. And so in the last couple of years, I have had some students, psych major, come to me and then ask me. They found out that I'm a clinical psychologist. I sit on a board. I do a lot of things with APA. So they learned about my other hat, other than this hat here on campus, and they sought me out. And they said, well, what can I do to increase my chance to get into grad school? What can I do to prepare myself? And when I asked them, which year are you? All of them said they were seniors in spring semester. That's too late. That's too late. So when I approached Dr. Chan and I said, I really, really need to do something if it is at all possible and if it is at all appropriate for me to do so, I really want to talk to the sophomores and juniors and also seniors probably thinking about and preparing for graduate school now before it's too late. So that's rationale number one, okay? Rationale number two is this. So the American Psychological Association membership by race as of last year, and we have membership of about 160,000 people worldwide. It is the largest psychological science organization in the world. Out of that 160,000, white people about 70%, okay? Black people, only 7.5%. So what does that mean? In my people, even less. And when it comes down to Native Americans, American Indian, indigenous folks, it is 0.1% of the membership. So what do you think are the problems when you have this kind of lack of representation? I understand that it's only one organization, but it is the mothership, if you ask me. So what do you think would be the problem with this kind of discrepancy?
Underrepresentation, lack of different perspectives.
Absolutely, absolutely.
There's barriers and opportunities.
Absolutely. So as Dr. Chan was saying, people who look like us, who need help, may not get the culturally competent care or education or training that actually reflect our cultural competence lens to do the treatment, education, and then also training, right? And it looks like, who are we going to most likely be educated by and trained by? Absolutely, right? If that is the case, then the systematic discrepancy continues on. So if that is the case, people who will, in the future, who will rely on you for mental health care, who will rely on you for education, training, all those things may actually fall short because they are not getting what they need, and also people who need your help may not get the kind of help that you are capable of providing, and you will probably see a whole bunch of people who are from these communities needing to rely on this population. In itself, it is not the wrong thing, or horrible thing, as long as they are culturally competent. But there are reasons why you all came to HBCU, right? For instance, there are reasons why some Latinx students intentionally choose Hispanic serving institutions, just as you chose HBCUs. Same reason for a lot of people from the indigenous communities choosing tribal colleges for their education. Same reason for my people to go to institutions that are considered what is called ANAPISI, very similar to HBCU or HSI. There is also a segment of Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders. So we need to overcome this. So there's nothing wrong with all of you seeking workforce, right? Wanting to get a job after you graduate. There's nothing wrong with that. You want to go into, for instance, behavior analysis, work with autistic children and whatnot. There's nothing wrong with it. However, people of color have always and historically faced what? Lack of choices. Oftentimes, choices are given to us as opposed to us cultivating choices, right? So my rationale for sharing what I am going to share today is so for you to have the maximum amount and number of choices. So if you choose to go to graduate school, wonderful. If you choose to go and then work a couple of years and then enter graduate school, wonderful. But those are your decisions as opposed to decisions being made for you because you didn't know any better, right? So my workshop today is for you to learn about the kind of nuts and bolts of things so that you can actually maximize your chances and choices. So in terms of the 160,000 APA membership, take a look at the membership. In terms of the membership of the disciplines, if you will, of psychology that people are actually situated. Clinical psychology basically makes nearly half of the 160,000 membership. I'm a clinical psychologist. I know that Dr. Rosen is also clinical. Anybody else? Dr. Adams? Of course, yes. And then also counseling psychology, and then school psychology. Those three are considered what is called HSP, Health Serving Psychology. So anytime when you hear the word HSP, that is what you're talking about. And unlike other disciplines, those three require you to be licensed. Okay? So IO, developmental psych, social psych, forensic psych, health psych, very much smaller kind of representation, right? So for the HSPs, the clinical counseling, and then also school psychology, you have to be able to get licensure. So to practice psychology in those areas, clinical, counseling, and school psychology, you have to get licensed by your state, province, or territory within the United States. So you have to also get a state-specific licensure. So those are not a national licensure. It's based on the jurisdiction of each state. So if you are going to practice in Georgia, you have to follow the Georgia standard. If you practice back home, wherever your home states are, you have to practice based on that state's jurisdiction. And based off of that, there are differences. So for instance, some states require you to do a postdoc. After a doctoral program is done, you have to do about 2,000 hours, so 1 year, of a postdoc in order for you to sit for licensure, okay? Some other states will allow you to take the licensure without doing the postdoc. So you have to be very intentional about which state that you want to practice eventually and which state you want to go to for your graduate school. Any questions so far? No? How's the pace? Is it okay? All right. So when we use the word psychologist, that is a protected term, especially amongst clinical counseling and school psychologists. When you say psychologist, that is a protected term reserved only for those who have doctorate degree. Okay? So this is also, again, especially true for the HSP folks. Now, there are a couple of myths that I have heard over the years that I want to go over. First one is this: you must have a master's degree before you can apply to a doctoral program in psychology. Absolutely untrue. You can actually graduate from Morehouse and then go directly into a doctoral program. And I strongly suggest that you do that. And there are ways in which you can actually, and then those of you who are taking notes, I appreciate that. I will give this PDF version to Dr. Chan. So after this talk, you can please share that. So there are ways in which you can even earn master's degree while you're in a doctoral program. So it will require usually like 1 or 2 more extra courses or something, and then you basically get it along the way. Did you do that? Yeah, me too. So it's no big deal. However, the difference is this: there are ways in which you can earn terminal master's degree. So master's degree, for whatever reason, that's the highest you can go. And you practice as a master's level. That's different from the master's degree that we are talking about, okay? But I strongly recommend that if you're thinking about graduate school, go for the doctoral degree, because it will give you the most bang in terms of what you can do academically, in terms of research-wise, in terms of publication, in terms of the clinical work. It will give you the most bang. Yes?
So these programs versus terminal master's programs, are they more rigid on their applicants?
Are you asking whether or not the doctoral programs will be more choosy?
Yeah.
Yes. And I will get into that more later, because there are different kinds of doctoral programs too, okay? So the second one, doctoral programs are for 4 years. That is a myth. That is a myth. Mine was 5 years, and it was intended as 5 years. How about yours? 5 years. Yeah, right. How about yours?
6 years.
6 years, okay.
4 years and a 1-year internship.
Correct. So depend on what kind of doctoral program you are going to go into. It could be anywhere from 3 years, like EDD, Doctor of Education. EDD is usually 3 years. But you won't be able to probably practice psychology with the EDD unless you go through all kinds of other hoops later on in your life. But in terms of the doctoral, you need to find out how many years of commitment, okay? Another one, there is no difference among different sub-disciplines in psychology. Absolutely untrue. So I'm clinical, you're clinical.
Experimental.
I know that Dr. Rice is personality. Dr. Young is community psychology. So there are differences in terms of what types of psychology that you can actually pursue. Another one, you can use your resume when applying to graduate school. Absolutely untrue. How many of you know what CV is? Okay, we need to do some another workshop probably. I have been begging our career service center for years to make sure that our STEM students and also social science students especially know how to do curriculum vitae as opposed to resume. Because the CV, again, so CV is absolutely needed. If you apply to graduate school with a resume, you're not gonna get in. So the difference between, and we're gonna go over this too, but the biggest difference between CV and resume is that resume is how long usually?
Okay.
One page, right? It's just a condensed version. CV is a multi-page comprehensive way of telling who you are so that the person who is choosing you can see whether or not there is a good match between you and what you want to do and what they can offer. Okay, so those are some of the myths. So particularly, specifically for today's workshop conversation, I'm going to make an assumption that you are interested in pursuing a doctoral degree. I just made a decision, you are. Okay, and so my information will be more skewed toward pursuing doctoral degree as opposed to a master's only, okay? Second thing that I'm going to say is that there are options for doctoral students to receive a master's, again, along the way while in the doctoral program. That is very different from the master's degree that is a terminal master's. Yes?
What is the benefit of getting that master's degree when you're gonna get a doctoral degree?
Very good, very good. Am I going to be able to practice under my master's? Absolutely not. But it's in a way for a lot of people, it's a backup insurance. That's how a lot of us think. Life happens. Life happens, especially during 5 years, right? I mean, I'm sure life happens between, your time here, years of your time here, and that's only 4 years, supposedly. 4 years, right? 5 years, all kinds of things can happen. So life can deter you, slow you down, whatever happens, if you have something, right? Something in the middle, as opposed to undergraduate to doctorate. And although you're going to go for this, if you don't have anything in between, you don't have anything to fall back on. So get it. If it is possible, you should get it. That's probably the biggest benefit that I can think of.
I can tell anecdotally a story of a student who was in the master's program, was in the doctoral program at Penn, and his advisor left an institution. And instead of going where his advisor went, he, because he had completed his master's, was then able to apply to other programs. He applied to Michigan, and we were happy to accept him because he'd already had the master's. Had he not had the master's, it would have been a different story. He demonstrated that he could complete, well, not necessarily was a terminal degree for him, but was a stopping point. And because he had demonstrated that, then he was a greater applicant, a more competitive applicant for the PhD.
So did he only apply to Michigan because of the professor he was originally leaving?
Yes.
Okay. Does that happen a lot?
So, I mean, the circumstances, life happens.
Yes.
And again, the advantage of a master's is you may decide the school you're going to really isn't fulfilling your interests. For example, I went to University of Arkansas for my master's, and it was a wonderful place, but they wanted all the clinical students to do rat research. They were doing it in a dissertation. And I said, this is ridiculous. What are psychologists going to do? So I applied to University of South Carolina, which I focused on humans, and had an amazing experience at South Carolina.
So if you are thinking about only the master's degree, you should probably, and then I will probably get booed by like APA, but you should look for master's programs that are K-CREP accredited. That's a different type of accreditation specifically for master's level practitioner, okay? Because ABA specializes in the doctoral level licensure. So when you apply for graduate school, those are probably the minimum you will be required to submit. So there is some type of application that is specific to the school that you are looking for. So they would say something about, send some writing sample. If you have done an honors project, send that in. If you have done research, if you have published, then send that in. So there are some specific things that each school may require you to submit, but CV is always included, okay? There is always personal statement, about 1,000 words or so. And you have to talk about why you want to become a psychologist. You also want to talk about why you want to become a psychologist. Why now? Why now? And also what your comfort levels are in terms of doing research, all of that kind of stuff. Again, different schools will ask for specific questions, but personal statement is always required. Then references, letters of recommendation, usually three. So my recommendation is for you to always start now. If you haven't done that already, start now. You need to at least assure 2 academic people's references. And then the third can be flexible if you have done clinical work, for instance, or research work, for instance. And you have done that with another program, if you have done that with another university, you can have another person, third person, who can talk about that experience specifically. But if you haven't done so already, do not wait until your application is due and you scramble and then contact your faculty a week prior and say, I need a letter. That's not going to happen. Because the letter has to say why you are a good fit for this particular thing you want to do, right? In order for faculty to praise your skills and knowledge and characters and all of that, they need time. You may not understand how busy they are. They are busy people. They have other things going on. And guess what? Graduate program application, the earliest starts, guess when?
In October?
November, right? Usually November 1, November 15th, those are the earliest batch that goes through. What would be the latest, do you think? February, right? By March, they're making a decision, right? So think about what happens on a campus like this between November and February. What's happening? Breaks, 2 breaks. Thanksgiving break coming up, and then winter break is gonna happen, and then the beginning of the new semester. All of that, guess what? You're busy, but also your faculty are busy. So start securing those relationships now. And then GRE, the graduate, it used to be a requirement for a lot of programs. Many programs are now starting to let go. And the reason why is because they are finally hearing many of our voices saying that a lot of students of color actually get very much disfranchised by this very much Eurocentric measure of measuring our abilities. And the testing itself, we don't know whether or not it's valid. Yeah, it's been used for years, so it's valid. Is it really reliable to showcase what we can do? Not sure. So a lot of programs are starting to reconsider about GRE requirement, so you need to check each school, okay? So sophomores and juniors, how many of you are sophomores and juniors? Perfect, perfect. How many of you are seniors? All right, all right. So those of you who are seniors, like getting into, like high year, right? So start building those trajectories and start building relationships. Now, going back to what I started talking about, curriculum vitae, CV is different from resume. How many of you know how to do CV? Someone. Okay. So again, resume is a one-pager, very short. CV is usually multi-pages. How long is your CV? Right? How long is your CV?
Depends who's asking.
Okay. How long is your CV?
Long.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very long.
Yeah. So my CV, last time I checked, was about 18 pages. Okay? But please don't freak out. That's with 25 years of my career, right? Same thing with you, same thing for you, same thing for you. So the longer you're in the field, of course your CV is gonna get long. However, to build a CV, you must have the following minimally. So how many of you belong to professional organization?
Does Morehouse count?
Nope. No, national
The
organization.
student one.
APA, American Psychological Association, Southeastern Psychological Association, Georgia Psych Association, ABPSI, absolutely. Oh, yeah. ABPSI, yeah. Please join something. Please join something. And I know I'm biased here, but APA does a really good job of providing resources. So this is also one of the only times in your life that your membership is gonna be really affordable.
It's only like $40, right?
Something like that, yeah,
Wow.
something like that, yeah. How much do you pay?
Well, I don't pay anything now because I've been a member since 1970.
Oh, wow,
So-
okay.
So the only thing I pay for is publication.
Nice. So mine is like 350. Yeah.
But it used to be a lot more.
Yep. So you need to show that you actually belong to a professional organization. That, what does it show? Not only that you're paying for the membership due, but what does it show? What does it communicate to person who's reading your material? Yes.
Like commitment.
Very good. And you also have the network. And you also are familiar of that particular organization's lens from which that you will see psychology for what it is, right? Another one. How many of you have done professional presentations? All right, where at?
I'm doing one at Abercamps in November, and then I did one recently for AGP, I believe.
Beautiful. So this is what I'm going to ask you. Those of you who are sophomores and juniors, start approaching your faculty and find out what they are doing and if they can possibly help you out by having you join their labs or having you join their publication work or research work. Be part of what they are doing. It's also a good thing for you all to know what each faculty actually specializes and does, right? Another thing, how many of you have professional publications? Not yet, that's okay. Again, find out who amongst the faculty are presenting and publishing and see whether or not you can actually join them, right? If you are a team of 8 people and if your name is at the very last one, meaning the least contributing author, you at least have something under the belt. And whether or not you have done publication and presentations in a professional forum, I'm not talking about writing something for the Maroon Tiger. We're talking about something that is a professional journal or book chapter or something that you're teaming up with other people to do that, that will give you such a huge advance when you are applying for grad school. Another thing, how many of you part of, yes?
So PsyD has its own student publication, but it's for students who are in PsyD
Okay.
International Honor Society.
Okay,
So students just need to be aware that that's also an opinion, and they can't go on a CV.
Absolutely.
Because it counts as a publication. And, you know, it's something that's expected for students to do, so you don't have to worry that it's not in a journal that's, you know, a peer-reviewed journal that's sponsored by a professor in your lab. A professor can also publish with you.
Yes. That's good, that's good. That's like that.
Just one more comment too. We have a chapter of ABSI here starting fall, so you all can be a member of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're interested, actually, and you're not part of ABSI, especially if, you go to some, especially for people that are in Morehouse, you only have to,
If you decide to
just period, yeah.
All right, so another thing that they will be asking or looking for is your references. Again, make sure that you have gotten the permission and agreement from your faculty or whoever is going to be your reference to do this for you. Don't be just basically writing down their names and contacts, and they will contact them, and the faculty will be like, I haven't seen him in the last 2 years. He hasn't taken my class in the last 3 years. That should not look good. So make sure that your references are people that you have already gotten the permission from. And then when you provide the references, make sure their full name, full title, and then also affiliation, email, phone number, all of that is in there. Okay? All right. So, in terms of your CV, it looks like this usually. So if I were to do the first page, and then address, phone number, email address, and then the first thing you need to do So the first thing you need to do, make sure that your name, of course, address, email address, phone number, all those things are listed, right? First category you have to cover is education, right? And you need to put year when you started and when you're ending. Now, the trick here is do not put your ending year yet because you haven't graduated. So you can basically leave it as one of those squiggly things. And then say anticipating graduation of, and then put the year. If you put the year, beginning and the end year, then it will basically ding you. The graduate school programs will look at that and say, they haven't finished it yet. And they're already counting it. If they are arrogant that way, what else are they going to bring into the program? Okay, so it's a lot of the nonverbal kind of a thing that's gonna happen. Make sure you put the name, so Morehouse College, and then put the city and then state. For everything you will provide, you put the city and state because you are not going to be applying to places that will know, unfortunately, where Morehouse is, who Morehouse is. So everything that you do whatever the internship you do, whatever the presentation you provide, you put the city and the state. And then make sure major, minor, if you're on a scholarship, if you have gotten some fellowship, if you have gotten some kind of accolade, dean's list, all of those things, you need to put that in there. Then you also need to put experiences. So you can put it as a work experience or professional experience, but you need to do that as the second thing. And then you list where you work, the name of the place. Let's say that you were working at a lab. You put the name of the lab, again, city and state, and then you provide description of the place.
Would working, say you do end up getting into lab with a professor, would that count for professional experience?
If you are getting, that would be a different category, I would say. If you're getting paid for it, then I would say, why not? Put it in here. But if you're not getting paid for it, then I would put it under here, fellowship, scholarship, internship, recognition, and also research, okay? So after the description, and give one sentence or so of a very succinct description of what that site does, right? So let's say, like one of the things that I have is a 200 bed inner city psychiatric hospital providing comprehensive psychological testing and treatment for urban youth. That's one description of one of the things that I have for my professional experiences. After that, you basically bullet point and then provide what it is that you did, your duties. So you can say something like 10 hours a week provided intake, 5 hours a week provided mentorship for blah, blah, blah. So you basically provide that specific things, okay? Now, in terms of the research publication and presentations that you will add to this, make sure, please make sure you list them based on what? APA format. And they will be looking. Those people will be looking. So APA, I believe it's the publication number 7, right? Oh my gosh! Okay, so you all need to be writing based on the newest APA manual.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I thought you were talking about division.
Oh, no, seven, right?
Yeah, it's 7.
7, okay. So make sure that your publications or presentations that you have done, all of that, cite them based on the APA 7 format, and then references. So that's the minimum you will put in the CV. Now, in terms of, because many of you may be interested in other things rather than the HSP, the health service psychology. So go to www.apa.org. So you all have the fancy phones and computers at hand, so go there, please, right now. So apa.org. Yeah. Anyone who has signed in. Yeah. Are you guys there yet?
Yes.
Are you there? All right. So put in a search. So it's all the way up to the right, and there's a search box, right? You see that? Put in divisions. You there yet? All right. So you will probably see a whole list of things that are coming up. So click on the thing that says APA division or something like that. Now go to the actual page that says divisions. Do you see that there are now 54 divisions that are listed there? 56? All right, my bad, 56. You see that?
Mine says 54.
Mine says 54.
Where are you?
Where was the? I went to the.
This does extend to 56, right? And then they are saying that it's listed 54. I think they're still waiting on the final approval to get the two more inducted into. So technically speaking, we have 56. How those divisions work is that the very first one, Division 1, is the oldest. Division 54 or 56 is the newest. And you can probably see the history of psychology, how it kind of evolved, right? So something about, for instance, communities of color, it didn't happen until Division 45, right? However, I believe general psychology is the very first one, right? Okay. And then a lot of social psychologists belong to Division 9. That's the social issues, okay? So as you can see, this is how expansive psychology is. This is how expansive it is. And think about it. Each of these division or discipline has its own affiliation with some graduate programs to get you guys a doctorate, right? So study that division and find out the ones that you are interested in, that align with your interests, and start looking up those divisions. Find out whether or not you can become student member for that division specifically, so that you don't even have to pay the whole thing for the APA. You can actually become, for some divisions, division member of a student.
So with that, what would be the distinction or the difference in membership between you picking a particular division versus you getting the overall APA membership?
Very good question. I know that there are some faculty here who don't belong to APA, but they belong to specific division. So you will have that very specific viewpoint, if you will, and what is happening in that division, but you may not be able to then bring it back to what is happening in terms of the association and also the field of psychology. So you will probably get a very specialist kind of a point of view, okay? So start looking up what it is that you are interested in it, and then start also paying attention to who is in the leadership of these divisions, who is representing student voices, and all of that. Now, another question, researchers versus practitioners, the question that you were asking about. There are two pathways, roughly speaking, for you to pursue doctoral program or education. One, especially for the HSP people, one is to focus on the research, and the other one is to focus on the clinical practice. So you end up providing care for people, okay? So, another choice also is PhD versus PsyD. PhD is generally regarded, I think you have PhD, you have PhD, you have PhD, I have a PsyD, okay? So this definition is straight taken out of the APA's website. So the PhD is generally regarded as a research degree. And although many professional psychology programs award the PhD degree, especially those in university academic departments like University of Michigan or University of Arkansas, you mentioned, South Carolina, okay? These programs typically have a great emphasis on producing new knowledge and engaging in research, okay? PsyD, mine, is a professional degree in psychology similar to MD in medicine or JD in law. So it's a very specific professional degree. Programs conferring the PsyD degree focus heavily on the application of psychological science to provide a service to individuals or groups. So again, two pathways, right? So what I can tell you is that the PhD oftentimes would accept very few number of students, but once you get accepted, you will oftentimes have some kind of research assistantship, teaching assistantship, and some kind of aid to get you through that 4, 5, 6 years of your life. PsyD degrees oftentimes are independent programs, meaning there is very little financial support for students. My parents had to pay obscene amount of money for me to get through PsyD degree. And so you have to find out what it is that you need, what kind of conditions or situations you are in, what it is that you need. And I can tell you right now, if I were a graduate program reviewer and seeing a Morehouse student coming in with a strong CV, I would take that person over a lot of other people. And in terms of, and then I overheard a little bit of the passionate conversation that some of you had prior to me coming into the room. And I can tell you, in terms of HBCU doctoral program, there are only, I believe, 3 or so that I can think about in terms of clinical counseling in this school. One is at Howard, right? Another one is at Xavier, and another one is at Mercer. Right? So, no, Mercer? I think so.
Mercer's an HBC. No, Mercer's a, I don't think it's an HBC.
No? Then what am I mistaken for? Mary?
Harry.
Yeah,
Harry.
yeah, that's it. That's it. So you're talking about only 3 HBCUs or so existing. So chances are, after you leave here, you would probably go to graduate schools that are housed in the PWI. So that's another consideration. You need to think about how that transition is going to impact you. You're used to this now, right? But what is it going to feel like? What is it going to be like if you are back to, some of you, that you are only few within the many, right? So be very, very careful and intentional in terms of you choosing graduate school, because it's going to, PWI or not, not, it's going to impact your well-being. I can honestly say, looking back in my life, those 5 years were tough. Even with very loving support and understanding advisors and faculty around in my life, those 5 years were no joke. How about your doctoral experiences? I mean, was it just like cakewalk? I mean, just easy peasy?
No, a lot of work.
My master's experience was terrible because it was such a detailed experimental program. But then when I came to South Carolina, I got really lucky because they said, we want all the people who come in with their masters to take the final PhD exam, but we don't expect you to pass. And 2 of the 6 of us passed.
Wow.
And we were superstars.
Wow.
So big change from my master's program, which was a nightmare.
Yeah. How about you?
Oh, it was tough. It was tough, but it was I had a lot of great support.
I know which program you went to.
Yeah, he had a wonderful community.
Yes.
And one thing I want to praise about South Carolina is they started a program in the 70s where they would take minority students, all expenses paid.
Oh, wow.
And
Okay.
over 30 Morehouse students have gotten their PhD
Oh, wow.
from the University of South Carolina, all expenses
Very
paid.
good. Very good.
Unfortunately, it no longer exists.
Very good.
Oh, but it was we had a great community.
Go Blue.
I think that yeah, go Blue. But that helped.
Yeah.
That was, and I don't know what the community is like now.
Yeah.
But at that time,
Yeah.
there was a lot of support.
Yeah.
And it made a big difference.
And I have to say a personal thing. So Provost Brown, some of you know, and he went to the same same university at the same time.
So right there, there was overlap. He was
Yeah.
ahead of me, but we overlapped, and
Dr. Marks also went to.
yeah, Dr. Marks as well. Yeah. No, Dr. Marks and Dr. Brown may be in the same cohort, but they may have gotten there at the same time. But Dr. Brown was one of the first people to embrace me and to kind of really give me a sense of belonging when I got there, and I will always remember that. I appreciate it greatly. In line with that, I would also say, if you have a chance to visit the schools that you apply to,
Yeah.
it makes a big difference for you to see
Yeah.
what it's like there, to kind of experience being in that space, and hear from students who are there to let you know what it's going to be like if you end up home.
Can I say something about that too? Because I've been to U of M's campus like multiple times, and I will say that another thing that it helps when you're touring schools that you want to go to is like having communication, especially with the department that you're interested in going to. When you go to a tour and you want to speak to like certain people, that kind of helps them see who you are.
Absolutely.
That helps them know who you are. So when you like visit or when you apply or stuff, that might be stuck in their memory.
Very true. Very true. And I can attest to that. When Dr. Brown he applied to a whole bunch of grad schools across the nation. That he got accepted into all of them. He bragged about it. He bragged about it. And then he told me that when he went to Michigan, he was already pre-assigned, that if he were to come there, this person would be a graduate advisor. So that matchmake basically was already happening. And then he enters the elevator. By chance, he runs into this person who's a giant in the field, James S. Jackson. Huge. And he passed away, my gosh, 5 years ago or so. And he was on sabbatical. He was not supposed to be on campus. So Kendrick enters the elevator. James S. Jackson is standing there. And then he goes, young man, what's going on? What's your name? Where are you coming from? So he tells him who he is. And then he says, I'm on sabbatical. You come to see me. When you get to the campus, you come to see me. You now come to my lab. And then Kendrick is like, am I going to piss off the other person? Don't worry about it. I'll take care of it. And from there, he was basically Kendrick's father figure until he passed away. So I share that to say chances and coincidences happen. Don't lose them as an opportunity to connect and build a relationship with people. It could change your life for the rest of your life.
Prepare your elevator speech.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. That is true. So how many of you know a thing called PsyCast? All right, great. So then PsyCast is the APA's centralized application service. This did not exist when we went to grad school, okay? Now there is a centralized service that is organized by APA. And if you go to that APA site that you were all checking out, and again, put PsyCast, you will probably see it. So you all create a single account to manage all of your application materials and submit letters of reference and keep track of all the deadlines and materials for each program. The good thing about PsyCast is that you can actually go to their site and basically, would I be able to get into that? Maybe I'll show you. You will be able to get into their program and then basically put in different states that you're interested in, different programs you're interested in, and it will basically spit out all the programs that you basically narrow it down to with your preferences. Each of that program, you click on it, it will tell you the graduation rate. If you're thinking about HSP, the licensure passing rate, as well as how many people applied and how many got in. So pay attention to that. If you are applying to a program that has 250 applications coming in, but they only choose 3, that's gonna be hard, right? But if you are applying to a program that accepts or receives 80 applications and they choose 10, guess what? The probability is now for you. It's gonna work for you, okay? So the caveat here is that there is the cost. $75 for the first application and $55 for each additional application. However, they also have eligibility criteria. If you're from HBCU, if you are from historically disfranchised population, they will waive. So pay attention to that, because this is the service now all the graduate programs are also using to receive the applications. Okay? So, specifics about PsyD. One of the biggest things is that it streamlines all of the application process to one centralized place. So you don't have to, back in the days, you had to contact every program and then basically come up with a spreadsheet-like thing and keep track of everything. When is the deadline? What is required? How much do I have to pay? None of that you have to worry about. It's now streamlined. Also, you can track program-specific admission requirements. This school is asking me to do 2 essays. This school wants me to do X, Y, and Z. So you can keep track of who is asking for what, okay? And also tracking and also recording all communications that are sent by that programs to applicants. So you will see direct application information from the programs coming through PsyD. You will be able to get that. Also, requiring students to request official transcript only once. Because transcript, which is required for most schools for your admission, it's gonna cost you money. Like a $10 or something, $15, right?
This is kind of an aside. What's the difference between the official transcript and the unofficial transcript?
Very good question. So the official transcript is what it would be required when you apply for a job or when you apply for graduate school. It has the school seal, okay? And then also, there are some programs that would say, you know, it costs a lot of money for the students, so we accept unofficial transcripts. Some people do, some programs do, but very rare, very rare. So also, back in the days, the seal was also required, and also they needed to be sealed in an envelope and then sent directly from the registrar to the program. It no longer requires you to do that, but seal is still needed. Also, there is a dedicated customer service for all PsyD inquiries about the application process, and again, offering APA-funded fee waivers for eligible students. So you should probably check that out. And I will give you this again to Dr. Chang, but there is a specific website that hosts all of that information, so I am including that. Now, I think Dr. Chan mentioned something about the fact that I'm also on the training advisory committee, which is a board, for the APA's Minority Fellowship Program. Dr. Yang is actually, was one of the APA fellow a while ago. So, this is something that, with our strong recommendations that MFP is now starting to do an outreach to undergraduate students. It used to be only focusing on graduate students. It is now expanding to undergraduate. So take a look at this. And I urge you all to please apply. Although it says October 30th, they extended to November 15th. So that is an application form for the undergraduate MFP summit. And this will happen February 20th to 22nd of next year. And it will have a summit, basically, to give you opportunity to network, start working on your CV together, do the elevator pitch preparation, all of that, while providing students who are considered quote unquote minorities to have a community, supportive community, in case that you will go to PWIs and you will lose this, but you will have a secondary home, if you will, that is intentionally being built to try to make sure that you have a sense of community and sense of belonging while you do the graduate program. So that is basically the whole spiel. I seriously hope that you expand your choices, okay? One of the most beautiful things about a place like this that I respect so much about Morehouse is that it gives you options. It gives you options that you didn't even know that you could possibly dream. So please take that for it, the fact that it's a special thing. Don't take it for granted. Don't take that for granted. You have to make sure that options are something you are trajectory and intentionally building for yourself. Otherwise, oftentimes communities of color, we get the scraps, the leftovers we are the afterthought of all kinds of people. So don't do that. Not for the sake of saying that Morehouse needs to send more psych majors to graduate school. That's ego speaking. But I sincerely hope that there are people who look like us who need special care from people who look like us, who are waiting out there, who are getting mistreated. So please, if you care about our community, which I know you do, think about the impact that you will have out there. And one more thing, and this is a fact to faculty. Every university and college nationwide, psychology is one of the biggest majors on any campus. You go to PWI, HSI, doesn't matter. Psychology is always in the top 4 of the most popular majors at any campuses. Yet, we don't have pre-med or pre-law like pathway creation. So what happens? We end up educating our psych majors who then go on to do other things other than psychology. We have to make sure that our psych majors are going to be able to pursue opportunities in psychology and continue on. Otherwise, we're just bleeding them out. So much talent, even in this room alone. So much talent and so many opportunities. And we shouldn't be just giving them away to other fields like social work or counseling at the master's level or law school or business school. I'm not knocking them, good for them, but we need to have our own pathway to make sure that people who are interested in psychology continue on with their pathways. So that's my sincere hope for the department. So thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Dr. Sera. Do you all have questions, comments? Please.
Hi, mine is a little personal. My name is Chad Davis, by the way. I'm a senior psychology major.
Okay.
I just had a quick thing. I'm someone who's graduating